Critics too, including Israeli families who live along that border in the north and say they don't yet feel safe to return home. At 4 a.m. in Lebanon, guns were being fired, but this time in celebration, as a ceasefire finally took hold. Later, lines of cars, stacked with mattresses, returned to southern Lebanon. Families who had fled the violence, finally able to go home.
Peace is possible.
President Biden with welcome news ahead of Thanksgiving, after thousands displaced on both sides of the border amid the deadliest war in decades.
This is designed to be a permanent cessation of hostilities.
While overnight, an Israeli strike in Syria, near a border crossing with Lebanon, underscoring Prime Minister Netanyahu's vow not to let Hezbollah rearm. Netanyahu saying last night, if Hezbollah violates the agreement and tries to rearm itself, we will attack. But the vote in favor of a ceasefire by the Israeli cabinet being called a serious mistake by right-wing members of the government. Israel will withdraw from Lebanon over 60 days, replaced by UN peacekeepers and the Lebanese National Army, who failed to prevent Hezbollah firing rockets in the past, while Hezbollah would retreat north of the Litani River. A coalition of countries will monitor the ceasefire, including France, but no US forces on the ground. It will be a fragile truce. Netanyahu warning the duration of the ceasefire depends on what happens in Lebanon. An Israeli offensive that saw bombs in pages, the assassination of Hezbollah's leader Hassan Nasrallah, and thousands dead. Israel still finding targets on the last day, in Beirut and in the south, with Hezbollah firing rockets across the border. And in the south, news this morning of fresh strikes in Gaza, where around 100 hostages, including Americans, are still held by Hamas. That war is not over.
So as you point out, Keir, this fragile peace deal now in place, but this is going to be yet another year, another holiday season that the hostages are still not home with their families. Where do things stand on a deal for their release? What more can you tell us about that?
Well, that's right, Craig. Here's what Prime Minister Netanyahu is saying. He's saying he hopes this deal will isolate Hamas and lead to a wider peace deal, including the release of those hostages. President Biden is saying in that speech in the Rose Garden, Hamas now has a choice to make. The only way out is to release the hostages, including the American citizens. Now, Craig, some of those hostage families have been critical of that deal. President Biden promising, though, to do all he can in the coming weeks to push for their release. Craig.
Keir Simmons for us there. Keir, thank you.
Now to new developments in the President-elect Trump's transition. Another battle over immigration is taking shape, with the incoming border czar touting a plan for mass deportations, and some state and local officials already signaling that they will push back. We're also learning more about the president-elect's plan to impose new tariffs on imported goods, sparking fears of a possible trade war. NBC's senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez has the latest. Hey, Gabe, good morning.
Hey there, Hoda. Good morning. President-elect Trump's transition team just agreed to a memorandum of understanding with the Biden White House, allowing the two sides to formally begin the transition of power. 3 Trump allies also tell NBC News the president-elect is expected to sign up to 5 executive orders aimed at dealing with immigration alone as soon as he's sworn in. While touring Texas, President-elect Trump's new border czar with a warning for anyone planning to stand in the way of the incoming administration's mass deportation plan.
Don't cross that line. It's a felony to knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien from immigration authorities.
It comes as the LA City Council just adopted a sanctuary city ordinance that prohibits the use of local resources for immigration enforcement. Denver's Democratic mayor threatened to post local police at the county line to block federal immigration officers before backtracking.
We have no plan to do that, and we really hope that we don't ever have to do that.
A major question now, how Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, will get the manpower to carry out more deportations.
Do you believe that local authorities should help enforce federal immigration laws?
Oh, absolutely. I think we have to.
The sheriff's office in Harford County, Maryland, is one of dozens of agencies across 21 states that are part of an ICE program that allows the feds to delegate specialized immigration functions to state and local law enforcement inside jails.
There's also new fallout from a brewing trade war. The president-elect planning a 10% added tariff on China and 25% tariffs on anything imported from Mexico and Canada. Trump suggesting the plan is designed to punish those countries for the dangerous drug fentanyl entering the U.S., which they dispute. But because tariffs are a tax on what other countries send here and U.S. companies pay that cost, many economists warn that American consumers will be stuck with the bill. So what could get more expensive? More than $1.3 trillion worth of goods came from all three countries last year, including everything from fresh produce to cars and electronics. Mexico's president is now previewing possible retaliatory tariffs if the president-elect follows through, while Canada's prime minister says he's spoken with Trump.
We talked about some of the challenges that we can work on together.
Chinese state media is warning against what it calls a mutually destructive tariff war. Trump's proposal could also blow up the trade agreement he himself helped negotiate with Canada and Mexico in his first term, and it could be challenged in court.
All right, Dave, this year there's